If there's one anime slash manga that I'm as good as making theories about as Naruto, then it's probably gotta be JJK. However, I could very much say the same thing about JJK's community. See, because the Naruto fandom is incredible at making theories, and that's mostly because the Naruto fandom has a lot of questions that never get answered. Now, unfortunately, that's the case in Naruto, and Naruto is over. However, the JJK fandom is wrought with so many questions that we're really just grasping at straws for answers, but fortunately for us, the manga's still ongoing. But that won't stop people from trying to guess what's gonna happen before it happens. And that's exactly what's going on today. See, while I do pride myself as a little bit of a theorist, today I actually don't want to talk about a theory of my own creation. Today, I want to talk about a theory that's making its rounds across every different form of social media to the tune of millions of views. Yes, that's right, there's an anime theory burning its way through the JJK community right now. Well, actually, it was posted September 23rd, but I'm just now seeing it, so for my sake, it's burning its way through the anime community right now. And genuinely, I believe the real reason that this theory is making as much headway as it is not only because it makes sense, but also because it kind of doesn't. See, today we're going to be talking about a JJK theory that draws a connection between possibly the two least likely people in all of JJK. I mean, imagine the two least connected people in all of JJK, and then times that by 10, and that's the connection we're going to be making today. And the worst thing about all of it is that it makes sense. See, this theory, which has racked up millions of views on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, is saying that Riko Amanai, yes, the star plasma vessel, is Dagon, the cursed spirit. Yes, that's right, that sweet innocent high schooler that Gojo and Geto had to escort the Tengen is now a water-based cursed spirit. But how would that even happen? How would you draw that connection? And more importantly, why are we talking about it now? Well, obviously, Dagon is currently having his moment in the anime. He also might technically be having his moment in the manga. And Dagon's possible connection to Riko Amanai could actually key us in to the ending of JJK. See, I stumbled upon this theory, and this theory is good. But as I do with any and all theory that isn't my own, I tend to dive in a little bit further. I look for further connections to flesh this theory out to make it fully concrete. See, because like I said, while this theory is good, it was clearly not made by a professional. But I believe me stumbling upon this theory at the time that I stumbled upon this theory was fate. See, because between the possibility of this theory and recent leaks in manga chapters from JJK, I believe that I have found the thematic end to JJK's story. Which sounds insane, but we got a lot of video ahead of us, so buckle in. But before we get to putting on our tinfoil hats, ladies and gentlemen, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you're feeling particularly generous, or you just like hearing me pontificate about your favorite anime, then go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened manga and anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Or if you simply want to look like somebody who pontificates about anime, go ahead and head into my brand new anime merch store, where you can pick up some of the greatest anime sweatshirts, sticker packs, and t-shirts known to man. So once again, I'd like to reiterate that this is not my theory. I'll be talking about the points that the creator of this theory brings up, and then adding some of my own points. I first became aware of this theory through a TikTok posted by a user by the name of Grant, who was essentially just taking screenshots of a Reddit post created on September 23rd of 2023 about how Riko Amanai is most likely Dagon. And while the points in this Reddit post slash TikTok post are pretty good, I believe that there's a lot more to this theory than the original post actually even got into. Now, technically, that's because I have more information than the poster had on September 23rd, as very, and I mean very recent revelations in the JJK manga have added a bit more to this theory. Now, we're going to be trying to avoid as many JJK spoilers here as possible, but a couple of the points that I use to substantiate this theory will be spoiling the next episode of JJK's anime. And considering the fact that this video is coming out on Wednesday and JJK comes out on Thursday, you might want to skip that one point, but I'll warn you before we get there. Not to mention, we also will be doing a little bit of talking about JJK's manga. But once again, you'll get warnings before. Let's get into the theory. So this theory starts off in a way that most theories start off, and that is to say that somebody looked at two characters who weren't said to be related previously and thought they either look alike or they're dressed alike. And while this kind of observation really never amounts to much, it is the starting point to a lot of incredible theories. In the case of this theory, the poster began to talk about Dagon's cursed womb form outfit. See, because for those of you who don't know, Dagon in his tiny little chibi state is a cursed womb. Now, a cursed womb in its simplest sense is an immature cursed spirit. Now, this immature cursed spirit is incredibly weak. However, if this immature cursed spirit goes through enough emotional trauma or is close enough to being exorcised, they're able to undergo a metamorphosis. And that metamorphosis usually results in a special grade cursed spirit. See, because your average run-of-the-mill cursed spirit will usually just manifest. So whether it be a grade 4 to grade 1 cursed spirit, as soon as there's enough cursed energy towards a certain topic, that cursed spirit just exists. However, in rare circumstances where there is an immense amount of fear garnered towards a particular topic, sometimes a cursed womb will be manifested, and that cursed womb will have to go through a metamorphosis to become a special grade cursed spirit. Dagon, for the majority of the time that we've known it, has been a cursed womb, and in this cursed womb form, people believe that Dagon's outfit is eerily reminiscent of a nun's habit. Now, I'm not talking about a nun's smoking habit, or possibly her proclivities for finding her other nuns attractive. A nun's habit, or just a religious habit, is basically just the nun's outfit. And I do see where somebody could make this connection from. Dagon in its cursed womb form wears a cloth over its head that drapes like a nun's headpiece and a white flowing cloak, eerily reminiscent of a nun's habit. Now, the connection between this outfit and Riko is the fact that Riko went to a missionary school, or a school run by Christian missionaries with the idea of westernizing local people. So Riko also very much had ties to nuns and religious teachings. On top of this, the theory goes on to state that in episode 18 of JJK's manga, in the Juju Stroll, you know that 1 minute little clip they used to put at the end of the episodes where everybody was happy and playing around? Well, in episode 18's Juju Stroll, all of the cursed spirits are depicted as high schoolers, and in this moment, Dagon is depicted in basically Riko Amanai's exact outfit. Now, you could also make the argument that Mahito is also wearing Riko Amanai's exact outfit, and therefore, this first point isn't really the greatest point from this theory. But like we said, a connection in appearances is usually a good jumping point for any good theory. The second point of the theory is the first real good point. See, because the second point of this theory brings up something rather interesting. See, we know in the JJK universe, if a cursed spirit user is killed with a non-cursed weapon or not by a cursed technique, there's a possibility that they can manifest as a cursed spirit. So let's say hypothetically I catch Yuji off guard and I stab him through the heart with a regular old katana. There's a possibility, because Yuji is a cursed spirit user, that he could re-manifest after his death as a cursed spirit. This is why it's important for a battle between cursed spirit users to either use cursed techniques or cursed weapons. However, Riko, who is a cursed spirit user, that's why she was the Star Plasma Vessel, was not killed with a cursed item. She was killed with a Glock. I don't know if it was actually a Glock. Get off my back, gun nerds. And in fact, it's actually clearly stated that the gun that Toji uses isn't a cursed item or cursed weapon, as Toji states that any amount of cursed energy would have been detectable, and thus somebody like Geto, who was standing right next to Riko, would have been able to identify what Toji was doing and possibly save her. So Riko's death does technically fit the criteria for somebody who's a cursed spirit user to come back as a cursed spirit. The best example we've seen of something like this is when Rika, Yuta's childhood girlfriend, died at the hands of Truck-kun. And because Rika not only didn't die at the hands of a cursed object, but also because Yuta cursed her death, she came back as a vengeful cursed spirit. Now, this is probably a good time as any to go over the different classifications of cursed spirits, because there's three. The type of cursed spirits we're talking about today are vengeful cursed spirits. These are humans who become cursed spirits after their deaths. Now, like I've already stated, there's two different ways to get vengeful cursed spirits. The first of which is having a jujitsu sorcerer die not at the hands of jujitsu, and the second is if somebody's death is cursed, like Yuta did to Rika. Now, your standard run-of-the-mill cursed spirit is an imaginary vengeful cursed spirit. These are cursed spirits that are manifested by the collective fear of people towards a certain topic, like the smallpox cursed spirit. So Riko, not Rika, would have to fall into one of these two ways to make somebody into a vengeful cursed spirit. Either she would have to be a jujitsu sorcerer who was killed without jujitsu, which she was, or her death would have to be cursed, which it might have been. See, who was standing right there as Riko died? Geto, not only one of the only 3 special grade jujitsu sorcerers on Earth, but also possibly the strongest cursed spirit manipulator to ever exist. It is very much a possibility that when Riko died, Geto didn't accept her death, as after all, Geto was fully willing to throw away his status as a Jujutsu sorcerer to make sure that she didn't have to merge with Tengen if she didn't want to. And as he made the decision to save her from the society that he had lived in his entire life and operated and worked for, she stolen from him. So the idea that in that moment Geto would curse her death and not accept it, possibly leading to the creation of a vengeful cursed spirit, not crazy. And actually, I tend to lean more towards the latter explanation. See, there are so many similarities between Riko and Rika that it's kind of hard to ignore. One, their names are one letter apart, and I know what you're gonna say, everybody in JJK's name is one letter apart. And honestly, you're not wrong, and I find that very annoying. We got Jogo, and Gojo, and Toji, and Todo, Riko, Rika, Choso, Gojo. But come on, one letter apart is a little bit suspicious. On top of this, it would also explain Geto's obsession with acquiring Rika, as it's a possibility that Geto, through first-hand experience, figured out how strong vengeful cursed spirits can truly be. It would also explain the imagery of Toji's cursed spirit crawling to Geto after Toji's death. Now, the obvious imagery from this is the fact that Gojo gets Toji's blessing, Megami, while Geto gets Toji's curse, the cursed spirit he used to store his weapons in. But it could also be showing the fact that Geto's experience with Toji is leading cursed spirits to him. And when you consider the fact that Dagon and at least Kenjaku have been together for as long as we've known Dagon, it's not crazy to assume that Dagon was manifested through Geto's curse. The next and final point that this Reddit post makes talks about Dagon's domain expansion. And honestly, this is the point that I find the most compelling. See, Dagon's domain expansion is something that it's able to do even in its cursed womb form. And pretty much everything about Dagon's domain expansion is weird. See, Dagon's domain expansion, Horizon of Captivating Skanda, is by far and away the oddest domain expansion in all of JJK. See, outside of possibly being the biggest domain expansion in all of JJK, it's also the only domain expansion that anybody would want to hang out in. See, now this is because Dagon's domain expansion is a calm domain, meaning that unless Dagon wants to use this domain offensively, it's just kind of a separate dimension. A separate dimension that Dagon often manifests so all of the cursed spirits, Kenjaku included, can have meetings. See, Dagon with the creation of its domain manifests an entire idyllic tropical island with beach chairs and umbrellas, and an entire ocean surrounding that island. The domain itself is so peaceful that Mahito and Kenjaku are often seen relaxing in the sun in it. But all of this is weird, mostly because Dagon is supposedly a cursed spirit created through the manifestation of water-based fears. Now I know what you're gonna say.
Well, Nick, there's water in the domain. That kind of makes sense, right?
Well, sort of. Well, in order to understand just how weird Dagon's domain expansion is, I guess we kind of have to talk about some other domain expansions. A really good example of a domain matching the fear that the cursed spirit is based upon is Jogo. See, Jogo is a cursed spirit manifested from fear around volcanoes. And thus when Jogo manifests his domain, he summons you into a volcano. Not like on the side of a volcano or like at a spot with a really good view of Mount Fuji, inside of an active volcano. An active volcano that's so hot, if you don't have a simple domain or the ability to shield yourself whatsoever, you'll just melt. And thus the activation of Jogo's domain expansion should make you afraid of volcanoes. And this holds true for pretty much every single domain expansion. The Smallpox Deity's domain expansion brings you to a graveyard where you're perpetually shoved into a coffin and then nailed underground. Mahito's domain expansion brings you into a dark universe of hands. All of these domains are centralized around the concept that these cursed spirits are based on. And while Dagon's domain does have water, water isn't really the biggest part of it. See, if Dagon truly wanted to live up to the idea of being the symbol of humans' fear of water-based natural disasters, wouldn't its domain expansion be something like a hurricane or a tsunami or even just like really bad rain? So why is Dagon's domain expansion so different? Well, the reason that this Redditor gives, and a reason that I agree with wholeheartedly, is that Horizon of Captivating Skanda is actually Riko's way of trying to relive her last good memories. That is to say that Riko/Dagon is creating a domain expansion where they can relive the time they spent in Okinawa with Gojo and Geto. Riko, whether or not she knows it or not, is trying to create an environment where she can hang out with her friends at the beach one more time. On top of that, the way that Dagon uses this domain expansion offensively is through the usage of Fish Shikigami. Fish Shikigami that Dagon's able to shoot at an opponent with a guaranteed hit. Now, for a cursed spirit who's based off of humans' fears of all things water, I don't know, Fish is a bit odd, but not crazy. But it's a possibility that the real reason that Dagon uses Fish Shikigami is because of one of Riko's last memories. See, just before Riko and the crew left Okinawa, they went to an aquarium, and the anime does a really good job of depicting just how much this moment means to Riko. She walks by herself down empty corridors next to whale sharks, and as she loses herself in the gaze of these tanks and eventually finds herself in her mind swimming in these tanks with the fish. It's a possibility, much in the same way that Horizon of Captivating Skanda is a way for Riko to relive that Okinawa trip, that the offensive capability is also an allusion to those memories. But there's more to this theory than just what the Redditor posted. See, here is where we're gonna get to my evidence. Oh, it feels important to note that the whole Geto cursing Riko's death thing was my idea, not the Redditor's. And the reason I'm bringing that up now is because there seems to be some pretty good evidence for that being the case. See, Dagon is an unregistered special grade cursed spirit. And while that appears to be kind of a problem in the JJK universe, as it seems as though very few special grade cursed spirits are registered whatsoever, Dagon is also a cursed womb. Now, when you take both of these points together, something becomes rather clear and obvious, that Dagon probably hasn't existed all that long. See, to be unregistered is one thing, and that kind of makes sense when you're Dagon, because why would Dagon in its cursed womb form be registered? It's not powerful, it's not a threat, it's not going around killing people. However, to not only not be registered, but also to still remain as a cursed womb until the Shibuya incident is interesting. See, because two things probably would have happened if Dagon existed for a good amount of time. The first is that Dagon probably would have become registered. And the second is Dagon probably would have gone through enough emotional trauma or become close enough to being exorcised to go through its metamorphosis. However, neither of those things happen until the Shibuya incident, which implies to me at least that Dagon hasn't been around all that long. But when you consider the fact that Riko only died, what, 10 years ago? That would make sense. It doubly makes sense if you consider the fact that Dagon immediately became attached to Geto, who would hide Dagon away from the Jujutsu Society, as after Riko's death, Geto began down his dark path. Now, here's where we're gonna get into a spoiler for the next episode of JJK's anime. I mean, it's nothing crazy, it's kind of the logical sequence of events, but if you don't want a minor spoiler, then skip this part. So we know that Toji is responsible for Riko's death, right? I mean, we all saw the bandana fall off her head, and it wasn't like Toji was hiding the fact that he just killed a teenage girl. However, what those of you who are currently anime only don't know is that Toji is also responsible for Dagon's death. See, the most recent thing that happened in the anime is that Megumi, while trying to open a hole for everybody to escape through out of Dagon's domain, accidentally created a hole for his deadbeat dad to slip on through. Now, this next episode of JJK is just gonna be Toji beating the absolute brakes off Dagon. I mean, it's not even close. And the episode will most likely close with Dagon's death at the hands of Toji. Which would mean, if we assume that Riko did remanifest as Dagon, that not only did Toji kill Riko, but he also killed her again. And both after Toji killing Riko and after killing Dagon, he ends up dead. Now, after he kills Riko, obviously Gojo kills him. But after he kills Dagon, he kills himself after having a conversation with his son, Megumi. So what if the real reason that Toji decided to battle against the soul seance that brought him back to life was to finish his final job, which was to kill Riko Amanai? See, because here's the thing. Technically, all of this happened because Toji killed Riko with the wrong weapon. And thus, because he killed Riko with the wrong weapon, she was able to remanifest in the form of a cursed spirit. And therefore, Toji comes back to finish the job and also make sure that him doing the job in an incorrect way doesn't splash back on his son. I mean, think about it. It's kind of convenient that Toji ends up in Dagon's domain expansion. It's even more convenient that the person who lets him in happens to be his son. And while Toji doesn't know that Megumi is his son, at least not immediately, the first thing he does is absolutely run up the score on Dagon, who is threatening his son. However, if Toji had used something like a cursed tool to kill Riko in the first place, Dagon never would have happened. And thus Toji, in order to ensure that his son doesn't die at the hands of his mistake a decade ago, finishes the job. However, my additions to this theory don't end there. Though admittedly, the information I'm about to use to extend this theory, the Redditor did not have access to a month ago. And thus we now head into the territory of light JJK manga spoilers. See, one of the most recent things that happened in the JJK fandom is the fact that Gege Gatami leaked the cover for our next chapter, 241. And in the cover of this chapter, something is weird about Yuji's arm. And that something weird is the fact that Yuji's arm is red and yellow. Now, a color change would be weird enough to begin with, but there's also a lot more to this new arm than just its color. See, Yuji's new arm looks decidedly fish-like, as up the side of his arm there appears to be either musculature or gills. The skin of Yuji's new hand is red. However, at his wrist there appears to be a yellow band that's connected to a fin-like shield of sorts. It's all very weird, and technically it was revealed at the end of chapter 239, or 238, whenever Higuruma and Yuji jumped into the battle. However, because manga is black and white, all we really realized about this new form is the fact that Yuji's hands had claw-like protrusions, very similar to when Sukuna took over his body and turned his fingers sharp, which led a lot of people, myself very much included, to the connection that Yuji is still somehow able to manifest Sukuna's powers. However, because covers of manga are colored, and we've now seen the cover to the next chapter of manga, we've seen a whole lot more of Yuji's arm. Now, the immediate gut reaction of everybody who saw this color scheme was, oh, Dagon. Because if you look at the color scheme of Yuji's arm and Dagon's color scheme, it's almost identical. Add that into the fact that the arm does look decidedly fish-like, and pretty much everybody's all but agreed that somehow this new arm has something to do with Dagon, which is odd because Dagon has been gone for a while. However, this has led people to the conclusion that in chapter 241, we are finally gonna see Yuji's innate technique, and that innate technique is going to be vessel. Now, what could this possibly mean? Well, let me explain. See, as some of you may know, once again, kind of heading into manga spoilers here, but it might be too late for you anyways, Yuji is a death womb painting, meaning he's half cursed spirit, half human. Now, the reason that Yuji is a death womb painting is because Kenjaku is his mother. That is to say that Kenjaku took over Kaori, his mother's body, and then received back shots from his father to become pregnant with Yuji and then give birth to him. Yes, that's actually how it happened. Now, it's believed that the reason that Kenjaku did this in the first place is so he could make a perfect vessel for Sukuna's return, as somebody consuming even one of Sukuna's fingers was enough to kill them, let alone consuming all 20. However, it's a possibility that because of Kenjaku's fiddling with Yuji as a child to make him a perfect vessel for Sukuna, that he accidentally just made him a perfect vessel for any and all cursed spirits. And therefore, after Dagon's dispensal at the hands of Toji in the Shibuya incident, and after Sukuna decided to peace out of Yuji, Yuji decided to eat the flesh of a special grade cursed spirit and manifest its powers. But I know what you're saying. That seems incredibly random. And it kind of is until you sit and think about it. See, is there other special grade cursed spirits that Yuji could have eaten? Absolutely. However, let's assume for a second that this connection between Riko and Dagon is correct, and that Yuji's innate technique is vessel. If Yuji's innate technique is vessel, and he ate the flesh of Dagon, who's actually Riko re-manifested, what Yuji has effectively done is use his innate technique as a vessel to bring forth the power of a star plasma vessel. And not only would Yuji be using his vessel powers to bring forth the power of a star plasma vessel, he would also be using the powers of the woman whose death started everything in the JJK timeline. Everything that has gone wrong in JJK starts with Riko Amanai's death. Tengen not being able to conjoin with Riko Amanai makes him vulnerable to be conjoined with the entirety of the Japanese population, what Kenjaku wants. And thus that leaves an open door for people like Kenjaku and Sukuna to recreate the golden age of Jujutsu. And therefore, instead of just Yuji manifesting a vessel's power with his vessel power, what we're seeing is Yuji manifesting the abilities of the woman whose death started everything to end everything, while also getting revenge against and destroying the system that wanted to use Riko to sustain Tengen. So is Riko Dagon? I hope so, because knowing what we currently know about JJK's manga, that makes the most sense for an ending. And I can't believe this simple theory, created because Dagon wears a little piece of cloth over its head in its cursed womb form, could hold this much weight a mere month later. But what do you guys think? Do you believe that Riko is Dagon? Do you believe that Yuji is manifesting Dagon's abilities? And if you believe both of those things, do you believe that it's symbolically Riko getting her revenge? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I swear, every single day I get closer to Charlie Day, just beautiful minding with some red string.